Hello and welcome to today's episode of Who's the News. As always, the answer is us. I'm your host, Clarence Barents, and this is my co-host, Dr. Pepper. That's Professor Dr. Pepper to you. Now, before we jump into our main segment, I'm taking some viewer questions. It's viewer question time. Question 1. What is a virus? Well, a virus is essentially a bunch of genetic information packed inside a capsule with some way to get that genetic information inside of a host. It's a lot more complicated than that. There's different types of viruses and there's a bunch of stuff in the capsule and stuff. But I don't have the time to explain that, so anyway, on to the next. How are viruses spread? The most common ways are through droplets via coughing and sneezing, through direct and indirect contact, or through animal vectors. Question 3. How do viruses reproduce? There are two main ways, the lytic and lytogenic cycle. The lytic cycle is basic. The virus attaches to a host cell, injects its genetic information, which can be DNA or RNA, and it basically tells the cell to make more viruses until it dies, which releases all the viruses to go repeat the cycle. Now, the lytogenic cycle is more complex. You see, the genetic information doesn't tell the cell to make viruses immediately. It tells it to make it after a trigger, which is usually after it has reproduced a few times. And then everyone makes viruses, which is no good at all. Question 4. How does the immune system fight off viral infection? Well, it produces special proteins and stuff to kill the viruses and stop them from doing what they're doing. Now, it's like a lot more complicated than that. But again, I don't have any time. Back to you in the studio, Sarah. Thank you, Professor. Now, onto our main segment, COVID-19. Otherwise known as the coronavirus, otherwise known as the virus. Hang on, COVID-19? That's a weird name. What does it stand for? I'm glad you asked, Professor. It stands for Coronavirus Disease 2019. A coronavirus is a type of virus structure. Or if you're a real big brain, you can call it SARS-CoV-2 because it causes severe acute respiratory stuff. And also it's a coronavirus. The reason for the two is unknown. Now, it's believed to have originated in bats in China. The structure looks something like this. You can read all of that if you want, but I'm not going to since I've got limited time. Now, it's relatively genetically stable, which means it doesn't mutate often. So that's good news because if it doesn't mutate often, we don't have to look as hard to find a vaccine for it. It attacks the lungs by doing things like causing pneumonia, filling up parts of your lungs with fluids, and opening the way for different diseases to also cause problems. Now, the rate of infection, like how much you should be worried about it, basically. Well, how much you should be worried about getting it, not how much you should be worried about dying, is 1.5 to 3.5, which is mid-range. So yeah. This is the concept of flattening the curve, so the healthcare systems don't get overloaded. It might take longer, but it's less bad. Now, on to everyone's favorite section, fluff piece. It's got cute animals. Yeah, just you read it. I'm not going to. Alright, cool. That's another episode of Who's the News.